All right, welcome everybody to today's MOOC. It is a lovely day in Vienna, Austria, and we have a great topic prepared for you, which of course is exploratory testing for JIRA. But before we start, let me briefly introduce your hosts for today's session. Being myself, Thomas Hanke, training consultant for Tricentis Academy, and joining me is Ingo Philipp, our very own exploratory testing expert. I would even go as far as to say our very own evangelist on this topic. So not only do we have a great topic for you today, we also have a little treat for all attendees who will stay with us for the whole MOOC. You will get a free training course in the end, so stay put. Before we get back on topic, let me briefly talk about some ground rules. I know some of you who join our MOOCs on a regular basis will have heard this many times, but since there are new people joining us for the first time, please allow me to talk about our housekeeping rules. During the session, all participants will be muted. As there are hundreds of you currently attending, obviously everyone talking would be confusing and hard to follow. There is a control panel on the bottom of your screen with apps you can toggle on or off. The key ones being Q&A, Twitter, Share, where you can share the link to this ongoing session with colleagues and friends, and the media player. Please note, if you pause the media player, we will disappear, so please do not pause the media player. And even though you all are muted, we do encourage, of course, that you ask questions during the session. Please use the before mentioned Q&A box. At the end of the session, there will be a Q&A session, and therefore we will hold the most interesting questions for this session so that everyone can profit from the answers. We will, however, try to answer as many questions as possible during the session, but please be aware that only questions related to the topics will be covered. And also, please keep in mind that given the number of attendees, we might not be able to answer all of your questions during this session. I apologize in advance. And lastly, let me state that this session is being recorded and will be shared on our website later this week. All right, and so without any further ado, I'd like to hand over to Ingo.
Thank you so much, Thomas, and many thanks to all of you guys for joining. I'm just feeling really happy to welcome all of you to today's webinar. As already mentioned, it's all about exploratory testing for JIRA, our brand new add-on for JIRA, now available to download on the Atlassian marketplace. Having said that, let's have a brief look at the structure of this training course. Well, we have subdivided this training session into 3 parts. In part number A, I would like to at least briefly talk about the concepts of exploratory testing to create a shared understanding in order to make everybody speak the same language throughout the whole training session. In part number B, I would like you to see our add-on in action. So here I would like to give you a live demonstration of exploratory testing for JIRA. And part number C will be all about the Q&A. So that's the master plan. I hope that's fine for you. If so, then let's get started. First things first, exploratory testing, what the heck does it even mean? Well, guys, in my early days as a tester, as a plain manual tester, I was once asked by one of my test managers to figure out what exploratory testing really means at its core. But already at the beginning of my journey, I was totally lost. I just fumbled around in the dark. I simply didn't understand it. In the same way, I don't understand why we press hard on the remote when the batteries are dead. Or why the heck the dentist talks to you when you aren't able to respond. Well, this, guys, is still a mystery to me. The bottom line here is that at this point in time, exploratory testing was something totally incomprehensible to me. Well, I have then tried to escape from this dilemma. I've started talking to people. I've met people treating exploratory testing and manual testing as one and the same thing. And no, guys, a Bitcoin and a Super Mario coin are not the same thing. So I quickly realized that exploratory testing is a thing most people pretend to understand but really don't. Well, I've met people treating exploratory testing like a religion, like a philosophy, or like modern art. And as we all know, modern art is a disaster area. Never in the field of human history so much has been used by so many to say so little. And all this just said one thing to me, guys. Exploratory testing is like teenage sex. Because everyone talks about it. But nobody really seems to understand what it is and how to do it. And because of the fact that everyone talks about it, everyone thinks that everyone else is doing it. And the result of this, everyone claims they're doing it. So what is it? Well, now imagine you would be able to arrange all of your testing approaches on a one-dimensional line. Let's call it the testing continuum, ranging from informal approaches to testing to formal approaches to testing. By formal testing, I simply mean testing completely specified, such as test automation or manual testing. Do we have a name for an informal approach to testing? Sure we have, guys. It's ad hoc testing or freestyle testing. And somewhere in between there is exploratory testing. And this makes it so hard to grasp since exploratory testing can come in so many different flavors to us. It can be expressed in so many different ways. The one we go for is called session-based exploratory testing. It not only makes exploratory testing structured, it also makes it applicable for large-scale implementations. For example, when multiple agile teams are around in your organization. Defining exploratory testing on its own is a tough job, so let's compare it to formal testing. Well, formal testing can be safely translated to specification-based manual or automated testing. And it is a very mechanical approach to testing, especially when it comes to test automation. Because automation is just doing what automation does. It just processes a certain set of test data through your application in a certain sequence of pre-designed test steps. That's all automation is doing. On the other side of that fence, exploratory testing is more like an intelligent approach to testing. So here it is all about learning the product, designing tests, executing tests, and interpreting the test results all at the same time. So you do all of this simultaneously. And in doing so, your next test is always influenced by the results of your last one. And that's the reason, guys, by the way, why we call it exploratory testing. Now this in turn says that the purpose of formal testing is to monitor known risks. You here just confirm what you already know, whereas the purpose of exploratory testing is to analyze potential risks. So here you should focus on things you don't know. You should focus on illusions you are holding true without any empirical evidence. Now this implies that any exploratory test has a high information value associated to it, because we learn something new about the application. That's not the case with formal testing. Well, and now you might say, well, let's prioritize all of our test cases according to their information values. Well, that's one way you could do it, but it's not the only one. Don't miss the risk coverage. And without a shadow of doubt, you won't be able to achieve comprehensible risk coverage just by doing exploratory testing. That is what you can achieve with formal testing. Now the bottom line here is that formal tests are change detectors. Why is that? Well, you have made some change to your big fat product and you want to know if that has some bad impact on your already existing functionality. If so, run your automated regression. On the other side, exploratory tests are more like problem detectors. And as James Bach already pointed out quite plainly, here it is all about exploring the unknown, the invisible, to avoid the unthinkable happening to the numinous. So all I want to say by that is that it's not just about the one or the other, it's about both at the same time. And for that reason, we regard something as properly tested when it is checked by formal test automation and when it is explored by the richness of intellect of human beings. And this is at least our agile equation of motion and part of our definition of done, by the way, in all of our projects. And at the end of the day, the reason why we pay so much attention to exploratory testing. Now, having all that said, I think we are all now ready to go into exploratory testing for JIRA, our add-on available on the Atlassian marketplace. Now, before I switch to the demonstration, let me first show you what our add-on can do for you from a bird's eye perspective. So exploratory testing is not directionless. And so also our add-on allows you to define what we call charter issues. Those charter issues represent your test objectives. In JIRA, those charter issues are proper issues. For example, bugs, user stories, tasks, epics, or any issue of any custom issue type. Now, you can make use of those charter issues to define the scope and parts of the goals of your exploratory testing sessions. This means you can plan one or more exploratory testing sessions to test against those charter issues. You can also invite one or more exploratory testers to those exploratory testing sessions. Those exploratory testers then document their testing ideas with so-called exploratory scenarios. And hopefully those testers will raise some product issues. We call them raised issues in our add-on. These are, for example, bugs you have found for some user stories in your current sprint. Now, and those raised issues then link back to the scenarios, to the testers, the session, and finally they link back to the charter issues to close the testing life cycle. Now that's the big picture. And now let's see it in action. Let's switch to JIRA. So let me switch to my browser. Here we go. Now we've finally arrived in JIRA, and I already properly installed our add-on in the same way you install an add-on from the Atlassian marketplace. Now, once you have installed our add-on, you will see here an item in the main navigation bar of JIRA. It's called Exploratory Sessions. You see a few sub-items. Now let's go through them step by step. Let's first focus on what we call the Browse Session page. So let's open this page, as you can already see. On that page, we list all of the sessions you have created for a certain project. That project, in that case, is called Weekly Insurance App. Each and every row in the table represents a certain session. So what we display is, for example, the unique identifier of that session, the name of the session. In case you have time boxed the session, we show the start time and the end time. We show the information about the session owner, the person who organizes that exploratory test event. We, for example, also show how many testers you have assigned to that session, what's the session status, the number of scenarios created in that session, and we visually outline the results achieved. Of course, you have the possibility to also include or exclude a variety of different other columns, such as when was the session created, how many issues did we raise in the course of that session, right? Or how many charter issues are assigned or linked to that session, and so on and so forth. So please feel free to just customize the arrangement of the columns according to your needs. Now also in the header you will find what we call quick filters. So one quick filter is, for example, called My Plan Session. This quick filter just searches for all the sessions you are the session owner. In that case, I'm logged in as the user Emerald Co. So here I just see what I want to see, all the sessions I've planned. There is another quick filter out there. It's called My Joined Session, which displays all the sessions you have joined as a tester. And of course, you can also combine those quick filters with each other. And by default, we exclude all sessions which are in status closed, not to bother you with all those sessions at the end of the day. And you also have a search. That means if you want to search for a specific name of the session, just move on and type in something. It's an on-the-shot validation and on-the-shot search. So whenever you start typing something, the search is being refreshed. Now that is the Browse Session page. You always have a link back to our help with this one here. So you just need to click on the help and you will then be redirected to our support portal, and you will arrive at our landing page and you can make use of our great documentation and all of our knowledge base articles, troubleshooting guides about our add-on. Just wanted to mention that. Now let's see how a session looks like. Let's go to my favorite one, this supermodel tour. And it's not just my favorite one because it is called supermodel tour. It turns out to be the most powerful one when there is a lot of UI development going on in your product development. Now let's see how a session in general looks like. That's it. That's a session. In the header you see the name of a session. Just need to click in this field and you can change the name of the session. In the same way you can change the name of an issue in JIRA. In that pane you see all the testers the session owner has added to that session. The session owner in that case here is Robert Rowe. Of course you have the chance to change the session owner at any stage in your exploration. On the level of the testers, you also see the results and the status of the test carried out by a certain tester. So a test can either have three status values, can be planned, in progress, or completed. And the results just highlight, the colors highlight the results. So in that case, for example, Freda completed her test and something went wrong. The item next to the status and result field shows the invitation state. So you can also invite those users to a session via email. I'll show you that later on how that looks like. And this field just highlights if you are invited or not invited. Now, on that level, we show the overall session status. The overall session status is planned when all testers are in status planned. It is completed when every tester completed their test. And it is in progress anywhere in between. And this result bar just highlights in a visual fashion the results achieved by those testers. In that case, 5 of 10 testers completed their tests, 3 have been passed, 1 have been failed, and 1 completed their test but didn't provide results. Below that result bar, you also see a table which is 4-dimensional. The first tab you have is about the session charter. So here you can write your session charter to provide a crystal clear testing mission to your testers. You can also add attachments to your session just by dragging or dropping files onto that UI, or you can say, well, I want to attach a file. You just open a dialog, you select a file, let's select the presentation here, you just open and the file gets selected and is being added. In the same way, you always find those trash icons here in order to delete or unlink stuff. So you just click on it. Of course, we always ask if you really want to do that action, just go on delete and the document is being deleted. So the reason behind that tab is that you refine what you have written in your session charter. For example, these can be requirements documentations, design documentations, or any kind of mockups, for example. Another pane lists all the charter issues which have been added to the session. So these are your testing objectives. So think of them like all the user stories which are part of your current sprint, for example. Now, on the level of each and every charter issue, you also see how many testers you have assigned to test that charter issue. That means you're also able to distribute the workload here. So imagine the session owner, Robert Rowe in that case, wants that charter issue called Export and Mail Automobile Insurance Quote to a set of testers like John, Mark, Freda, Peter, and Larry. He can always assign and unassign testers to the charter issue. And those testers then get also notified via email when any change happens in between. In those 2 remaining columns, we show the links to the issues you have raised, like bugs you have raised and linked to that charter issues. And we also show the number of scenarios you have created in order to document the test while you were testing against this charter issue. The next step is all about the issues raised by all those testers in that session. So it just gives you a list of all those issues. So in all of those cases, as you can see, there were bugs. Now you can see not just the name of those issues, you also see who has raised that issue in the course of a session. And of course you have the same information about the number of linked charter issues and the number of linked scenarios on the level of such a raised issue. Now that is what you see on the session level. And of course you also are able to time box your session, to change the time box. Just click into the field and you're able to change the time box. Let's say, well, we want to do the session on, I don't know, June 30 to June 30. Now from a certain time, let's say we want to do it from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. You just update it and the time box gets updated. Now we've seen two pages, the browse session page and the session page itself. But you can also dive a level deeper. You could say, well, let's have a look on what a certain tester has achieved, like Emerald. So let's click on Emerald. And here you can see that's Emerald Co. in the Supermodel Tour. And he has created all those exploratory scenarios to document his test. On the level of each and every exploratory scenario, you see the result. So a scenario can also have a result, like a past or failed. Those three dots, by the way, always represent certain actions you can set on the level of those objects. Like in that case, you want to continue a scenario, or you want to raise an issue for that specific scenario, or you just want to export those results and you want to import them into Tricentis Tosca. By the way, we are compatible with Tricentis Tosca version 10.2 in case you want to start your test automation journey after your exploration. And of course, you always can delete those objects. Now the tester object basically looks like the same as the session object. Here it's the overall progress, so that is what you can set manually. So you decide if you are in status in progress, planned or completed. And you can see if the tester has already been invited or not. In the same way we display those results in that result bar, and the session owner has also the chance to write a tester charter for that tester, to provide more guidance, to provide special instructions for the tester. You just need to click in that field in the same way you can do it on the level of a session and document what you want to say to the tester. You have all those formatting capabilities you need to have in order to properly transfer something to your tester. You can also add attachments to a certain tester. The tester then just sees the charter issues the session owner has assigned to him, because that's the only thing the tester is really interested in. And of course, the tester only sees the issues he has raised. So these are all the issues Emerald Co. has raised in the Supermodel Tour. So that is the universe of the tester, so to say. And we also provide a text field where you can start and write a short test summary, which is especially helpful when you do a short debriefing session with the session owner after you have completed your test. Now that is how the tester object looks like. Now we also provide one more page, which is the scenario page. So let's have a closer look at how we represent a scenario. Let's go to this scenario here. It's called Create Automobile Insurance. When you click on that link, you will see the scenario called Create Automobile Insurance, created by Emerald Co. in the Supermodel Tour. By the way, so this is the breadcrumb navigation. You can always go back to the corresponding object via that navigation capability. You see all the details of that scenario, like when was the scenario created, when it was last updated, what is the corresponding project, the corresponding session, the overall result, how many screenshots, videos, and attachments did this tester attach to that scenario, the overall size of the scenario, and beneath that you see all the linked charter issues and raised issues. So in order to link a new charter issue, for example, to such a scenario, you just click on the link charter issues. You can search them for certain charter issues. You can also type something in order to refine your search. You just select it and then click on link, and then the charter issue will be linked. Now in the people section, you see who is the session owner of the session this scenario is related to, who is the exploratory tester, and by which person was the scenario last updated, and then information about the environment, which was the scenario created. Now here you see the number of linked raised issues. That means, for example, the number of bugs you have found while you documented your test ideas with that scenario. You can always raise a new issue and link it to the scenario, or you can link an already created issue to that scenario as a raised issue. You can also play back the scenario. You just click on the playback button and you can go into full screen mode by this control here. Just go into full screen mode, and then you can toggle yourself through each and every step the tester has carried out in order to document his test in a very detailed fashion. So here you see the screenshot which corresponds to a certain test step, like here enter vehicle data, and below that you also see the corresponding action. So here you enter the certain value in the list price edit box, and as you can see, that is exactly what I've done. I will show you then in a minute how you can create those scenarios, all those screenshots, and how you can annotate those. So it's not just about displaying screenshots, it's also about playing videos. So in that pane, we also replay or play back videos. That means in that case, Emerald Cole, the tester of that scenario, created a video and linked it to that scenario, and you can easily play back it without downloading anything. You can also navigate back and forth via these buttons down here. You can also jump to the previous failed step or to the next failed step with those two buttons. Just press the escape key and you release from the full screen mode, and again, and you are back in JIRA. So that is how the scenario looks like. Now let's see how do we create a scenario. So let's go back to me. I'm Emerald in that case. Now in order to create a scenario in JIRA, you just need to click on Start Testing. By the way, we have that button everywhere. So when you don't know what to do, just hit on the Start Testing button and you're safe to go. So click on the Start Testing button. What we then do is we download and install the so-called Exploratory Testing agent. That's just a small tool we are using and which helps you to document your test. And that is how the agent looks like when it is properly downloaded and installed. Of course, there are no admin rights required to download that. All the files are being deployed in your local user profile. Now, here we already offer two possibilities. You could say, well, I want to first read my charter again. You just click on that field, and here you can then read all the information the session owner, for example, wanted to convey to you before you start your test. Of course, you can print the scenario and you can export or save it as a PDF file. But most importantly, you want to start testing, right? You're in a hurry, you need to provide feedback to your development. Then just click on Start Testing. When you do that, we also ask, do you want to link already here some of your charter issues, right? So do you want to test against the specific charter issue? You can say, well, yes, actually, I want to test now this one here. Just select it, click on Test, and then you will be moved into what we call the record interactions mode. Now, every interactions now you carry out with all your Windows applications will be recorded fully automatically with annotated screenshots. Now let's do some meaningful stuff. So let's open, let's say here, the Internet Explorer, and let's switch to our vehicle insurance application, our demo application. And for the sake of simplicity, just let's create a quote for an automobile insurance quote. So here you need to provide information about a few fields, like you need to select a make. Let's take Mercedes-Benz because everybody wants to have it, right? And let's put in some values for the engine performance. Let's select the date of manufacture, the number of seats, the fuel type. Let's add some list price here or a license plate number and some annual mileage, for example. Now, in the meantime, everything what you did was now captured fully automatically. So you can always pause the recording or you can stop the recording via these two buttons. Now let's stop the recording and let's see what happens. Now then you will be redirected to our so-called scenario manager. in that scenario manager, you see all the test steps you have carried out so far. So you can navigate through that jungle of test steps with those two items here. So just navigate to the next step, and to the next step, and to the next step. As you can see, on the level of each step, we provide the information of the application itself. So here you have interacted with the Internet Explorer, and you have clicked on the Mercedes-Benz list item. And that is the corresponding annotated screenshot for this. And it shows you exactly what you have done. So that's already quite cool. In that way, you could see everything what you have done, and then you could move on and add some annotations, for example, like when you have found a bug. So in that case, you could say, well, maybe you found a bug that this field shouldn't be mandatory. What you then do is you just highlight that, you write some text, and you already documented that in such a simple fashion. Now we also highlight the fields you have interacted with. So these, by the way, are just annotations. You can always remove them. You can change the shape. You can also change the color. You do all of this with all the annotation capabilities shown here. So that means you can add arrows, you can add lines, ellipses, rectangles. You can even blur something in case you want to hide some sensitive data, for example. You have seen the text box annotation, and of course you can also change the color. So just highlight a certain annotation. You want to have it, for example, in light green for whatever reason. Yeah, you can also easily export that screenshot and say, well, you want to now share just the screenshot to anybody else. You just click on export. Then you just define your save location. I'll go to my desktop, provide a name for your screenshot. We save it as a JPEG file. You just click on save, and your screenshot is saved. And if you double click on it, you can see all the annotations are frozen into the screenshot. In that way, you document it. Let me close now all those windows. Okay, so you can also add more screenshots to a certain test step, because we've just attached one of them, which we call the design screenshot. Of course, if you want to highlight your result in a more detailed fashion by more screenshots, you can say, well, I want to add a result screenshot, for example, to it. Just click on it, you mark the area you want to screenshot, like this one, for example, and the screenshot has been already taken. At the top of that pane, we also show you, well, how many media files, such as screenshots or videos, you already attached to a specific step. Like here, you can switch back to the design screenshot or go back to the result screenshot. And of course, you have all those annotation capabilities available for all types of screenshots. And of course, you can also add attachments to a certain step. Just click on Add Attachment, select an attachment, click on Open, and the attachment is being attached to that step. In the same way you can capture all those videos, all those interactions, you can also create a video in order to document, for example, bugs for some erroneous visual behaviors in your applications. So just say, well, I want to record a video. You just click on Record Video. You then select which area you want to record. You can select a certain area, you can select a certain window or sub-window of your application, or you can just go for the primary screen, the secondary screen, or the whole desktop, including or excluding the taskbar. I'm choosing the primary screen right now. So when I click on record, this recording control pops up again, and now explains to you that your interactions will be recorded with a video. So just move on and do your stuff. So let me click something in here. Let me do some interactions that you see something on the video. Now let's imagine you found some bug. You want to document that with the video. You just say, well, I want to stop my video recording. Once you stop the video recording, you will get back to our video editor, which then automatically plays the video, as you can see here on the timeline. That's, by the way, the video. No much action is now you see all my actions I've recorded. And the cool thing here is you can also annotate the video, right? You could say, well, let's go back to that stage of the video, so just the point on the timeline, and I want to add here, for example, the rectangle shape, right, in order to highlight a certain field. That is one annotation, you could say. You can annotate any frame of that video. You could say, well, you want to add that circle here, for example, right? In order to highlight something else. And with those two buttons, you can then jump back and forth between the annotations in your video. Once you've done that, you could also say, well, I want to trim some parts of that video, so I'm really not interested into the remaining part. I just want to keep the white space, as you can see. So you just say, well, trim my video. Your video has been trimmed. You save the video, and you will then get back to the scenario manager. You see we have created a step, which is just called capture video, and we have attached that video. In order to get back to the video editor, just click here on the play button. Now you can also set results for all those steps. So you could say, well, this step has failed, right? Every other step has been passed. So we also support, for example, multipassing, by the way. So in order to more properly define the results of your exploration. You could also decide which screenshots you want to keep or which screenshots you don't want to keep when you save the scenario. It's just easy as that. Now that's in a rough fashion how the scenario manager, or in more general terms, our exploratory testing agent, supports you in documenting your test. Now once you have done all that, you just say, well, I want to now save my scenario and I want to close it and I want to share the data. Let's imagine that. So once you do that, you will then again get back to the session manager. The session manager then immediately shows you how many scenarios you have already graded. So that's my one here. You can also rename the scenario from here. So that, let's call it its Ingo's scenario. You see also the result of that scenario. And you can also change the link to the chart issues. So here you can see this scenario is linked to that chart issue. I can also unlink them right now and say save, right? I don't want to link it. You can always continue your scenario and then start adding a video, start adding your screenshots, annotating the screenshots, or you just delete it. Now in the same way, our session manager also allows you to have a look at the session details. Again, a link to the charter. It displays who's the session owner, what's the ID of the session name, the start and end time. That's especially helpful when somebody invites you via email to such a session. Now let's imagine, well, you wanna now share your results. So you just say to stop testing. You say, I wanna complete my session. And then all the results get uploaded back to your JIRA server instance. We just encode the videos to be able to make it able to play back for you in the browser. And now we are done. Once you click on exit, we'll open up the browser and direct you to your session page. And here you can see that is the scenario I've created. You just click on that scenario and then you are again able to play back the scenario and see again all the steps I have created in the course of my exploration. So that's the flow, how to create a scenario. As I've said, you can easily move on and say, well, I want to now raise an issue, right? And I want to integrate that issue in my current sprint. So you just click on raise issue and you want to link that scenario. Let's say that's Ingo's raised issue. You can then also provide a description and all the fields you are used to provide when you create an issue in JIRA, such click on create, and then you can see, well, this scenario is now being linked to that bug here. You can also open up that issue because we also highlight the links between the exploratory testing sessions and the issues on the level of an issue. Just open it up in a new tab. Now on the level of any issue, so that is the one I've raised just a minute ago, you see a section which is called Exploratory Sessions. And here you can see, well, this issue was raised in the course of that session, was raised in the supermodel tour. The tour or the session is still in progress. When you expand that, you can see then all the chart issues which are also linked to that raised issue. In that case, it didn't have any links, and the linked scenarios. And that's especially helpful for the developers because that is what they see, right? They see, oh, somebody raised an issue, then they just expand that view, go to the scenario, and are able to play back the scenario. So bug reproduction for the developer is also dramatically simplified by that. Well, And yeah, let's also quickly show you what we call the get started page. So the get started page provides you 2 entry channels for testing. So you could say, well, I want to plan now my session. Just click on plan session. You provide a name of your session. Let's call it the test session. You can also say, well, I want to provide a start time and an end time, for example, of my session. There are no strict validations here. You can also add your charter issues. You can search for those charter issues and add them in the way you've seen it. You just click on create and you are ready to move on and add your testers to that specific session. Again, when you want to add a tester, you just need to search for them. Let's say I want to add Peter. Here is Peter to that session. You add it, and then you can move on as you have seen it before. On the level of each and every object, like on the level of a session, you can see you have several tasks. Like you could say, well, I want to reschedule my session. That means you want to remove all those results, but you want to keep the setup, which includes all the testers, which includes the session charter, the tester charter, the attachments, the charter issues you have linked to these sessions and assigned to those testers, and just creates a new session out of it. You can also close a session to assign a crystal clear close state to it. You can export the results also on the level of a session, on the level of a tester, and on the level of a scenario to import them to Tricentis Tosca. You could also say you want to delete your media files, all the screenshots and videos you have created so far, in order to save some data, I would say, to not increase the data volume of all your sessions. And of course, you can delete those objects. Now, having said all that, I think that's all I wanted to transfer to you, and I really hope that this short demonstration or short training course will help you to find your starting point with our add-on for JIRA, exploratory testing for JIRA. And now I'm handing back to Thomas to open the Q&A. Thanks so much for listening, guys.
Thank you very much, Ingo, for this very interesting demonstration of this very, very powerful add-on. There have been a lot of questions, and as I said in the beginning, we're terribly sorry if we don't get to answer all of them, but we do have some very interesting questions that might interest more than one person, so we picked them up, and I will ask Ingo if he can elaborate on these questions. So the first question was, is it possible to disable the add-on for certain projects? And if so, how can I do that?
Yeah, so it is possible. So in order to do that, you just, again, need to navigate to this tab, Exploratory Sessions. You then have an item to configure the specifics of our add-on. Of course, you just see that item when you're logged in as an administrator, okay? But once you have clicked on that item, you will then be redirected to the administration section of JIRA in the add-on section. And here in the add-ons section, you see our add-on listed under exploratory testing. Now here you have several ways to configure your add-on. You want to configure, for example, permissions. So let's see how we are able to just hide our add-on or disable our add-on from a certain project. Well, here we provide permissions you can set on user level, on user group level to be more specific. You could, for example, say, well, which user groups are allowed to delete objects, delete media files, update objects, view objects. And the one you are interested in is this one here, it's the project permissions. You could say, well, I want to hide my add-on, all the UI elements of the add-on of a certain project. You just select the projects you have. In my case, I've just a free. It's just a server running on my local machine. I just select the project. And when I now switch to the project, for example, to the life insurance app, let me switch to it like this. Let me open it in a new tab. Then you can see you don't see the tab anymore, and you won't be able to see a session in the project. And furthermore, we also removed that item in here in the sidebar. That is what I thought missed to explain. So here is a project where I see My add-on, I'm in the vehicle insurance app, and here you have the link exploratory sessions. So that is how you can disable under quotes and add-ons from a certain project. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, all right, perfect. And I guess in the course of explaining this thing, you already answered the next question, because the next question was if anybody can do everything, so delete sessions, for example. And I guess you briefly showed the user permissions. I think this is probably the way to go.
Exactly. So we just now provide the possibility to set user group permissions for these 4 tasks, because I think those are the most relevant one, especially when it comes to the deletion of objects, right? So delete object means scenarios, tests, and sessions. So here you can, let's say, define user groups like only the JIRA administrators are now allowed to delete objects, or delete media files, like delete all the screenshots and videos from a session, right? So in case you want to define it, define a user group, add it to that list, select it, and yeah, you are configured.
All right, perfect. We have another question being, is the session owner notified when anything changes when changes are made to his session?
Yes, so we provide notifications, email notifications, in the same way you receive email notifications in JIRA when, I don't know, somebody adds an attachment to your issue, or renames your issue, or does stuff like this. You can also configure that. In order to do that, you just need to switch to the notifications section of our add-on. You have a master switch to say, well, you want to turn on or turn off all your email notifications. Say, I want to turn them on in general, and then here you can define email notifications for certain events. And here you can, for example, say, please just notify the session owner and also the tester when the status of your session has changed, or when somebody has unassigned a charter issue from a certain tester in a certain session, when somebody deletes a session, deletes a tester, continuous scenarios. So this is the whole bunch of events you can configure, and yeah, so that's possible, obviously.
All right, all right. So you can go in very high detail in there.
That's right.
Nice. Another question was, since you mentioned that the add-on is compatible with Tosca 10.2, was the question which JIRA versions are supported?
Mm-hmm. So let's, in order to show you that properly, let's go to the Atlassian Marketplace, because that is the place where you can find our add-on and you download our add-on. So that's just an online store powered by Atlassian, and you can find a bunch of add-ons out there, and our one is called Exploratory Testing for JIRA. And here you also see the version. So we support JIRA Server for 7.0 up to 7.4. So that's the last version of it. It just came out a couple of days ago, and we are already compatible with it. So here you can see all the details. And by the way, you can have a quick overview over what our add-on does for you, what are the reasons to believe in our add-on, for example. You can also watch a short video which briefly explains the main use cases and the problems we are intending to solve. You can also write a review. You can see the pricing details over here, so they are not hidden, they are open to everybody. You can see also how our add-on is being supported. It's fully supported by just visiting our support portal and going to our documentation. But just to close your question, so version 7.0 until 7.4.
All right, perfect. And since I am seeing the page you already have opened, this answers another question. The question was, how is the add-on supported?
Yeah, so as you can see, here's the add-on support tab. We provide support for this add-on. So what you can do is, first you can read our documentation. Let me open that page again. You will then be redirected to our landing page on the Tricentis support portal. And here you then can see, well, you can also read or write knowledge base articles. So you have free access to our knowledge base article area on our support portal. You, of course, can create incidents, raise some tickets, file issues when you face problems with our add-on or just have some conceptual questions about it. You can have a look at the FAQ sections, have a look at the troubleshooting guides, and with those two buttons you just come to our documentation. So you just click on the user guide, for example, when you are not interested into the admin section, and in the user guide you will see a lot of information regarding what our add-on basically can do for you in a use case driven approach. So that is how we support our add-on.
All right, perfect. We have another question, a little bit more technical. So you were talking about the agent. Does the agent work on Linux, Unix-based systems, and or on mobile devices?
So no, the agent just works on Windows platforms. It's not working on Linux and Unix and not working on mobile devices. We are currently working on providing the agent also on mobile devices. We really hope to be able to ship that within this year, but we won't. But there are no concrete plans to support Macs or even any other kind of Linux platforms.
All right. Yeah, we have a lot of more questions. So one more would be, there are JIRA Cloud instances. Does the add-on support or also work for these instances?
Yeah, not now. So as you spotted, maybe already spotted here, it's an add-on just compatible to JIRA Server. It's just a JIRA instances you hosted in your environment, right? It's not supported for cloud, as you can see here. Again, there are no concrete plans to support JIRA Cloud within next year. Maybe that will change. We are open for change. Now we're not just open, we strive for change. So please let us know about your requirements, your needs, and the necessity of your request or your question here. And of course, we can do something about it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm sure that's fine. So another question we received was, you did show that you can export your test results, but how would you integrate these results in Tricentis Tosca?
Mm-hmm. So basically it's quite easy. And by the way, for that we have a couple of other training videos and webinars which fully show you how we support exploratory testing within Tricentis Tosca. I now just want to show you the connection, how to do it. Well, it's quite easy. Let's go back to our add-on. Let's go on the level, let's say, of a tester, here Emerald in the supermodel tool. And in order to export the results of Emerald, for example, you can also do that on session level or just for a specific scenario. You just export the results. We just ask you some question what you want to really export. We want to keep all those screenshots and videos, right? And do you want to also keep those attachments, for example? You say, yeah, I want to do that. You click on export. We save then a file in a so-called TXR format. The R just stands for results. I have no idea what the T and X stands for. Already forgot about it. You just save the file and then you can import it into Tricentis Tosca within a single action. And then you have all the information about the session, the test, and each scenario in the same way you see it here in JIRA. But for that, I would really love you to have a closer look at one of our webinars so that we can provide the link afterwards, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So is there a trial available for this add-on?
Sure, there is. So again, let me go back to the Atlassian marketplace in order to show you that. I mean, I think you didn't miss here the try it free button. In order to try out our add-on, you can try it out for 30 days. And you can also renew your evaluation or trial license up to 5 times. So that's the same for all add-ons out there on the Atlassian marketplace. And we don't want to be specific on that. So just click on the try it free button. When you click on that, what you need to do is you just need to register, I don't know, with your Google account here. That's all you need to do. And then you are ready to go and deploy that add-on in your instance. That's it. So yes, there is a trial available.
Right, well, that seems easy. All right, another question was, you did show the tester level and mentioned that he only can see the issues he raised himself. So someone asked how to avoid the testers raise one and the same issue in the same session.
That's a good question. That's a very good question. So we don't really check it, but I can show you conceptually how we avoid that. Because I mean, you can also raise duplicates in your JIRA instance without having our add-on, and nobody tells you.
Yeah.
By the way, there are good add-ons out there, some tiny add-ons which suggest you if that is a duplicate or not. So have a look at them. But what we do in our projects is when you are, for example, a tester like Emerald, as you rightly noticed, you only see the issues you have raised. But what I always do when I'm participating in a session is before I'm raising an issue, I'm going back to the session, right? And I'm switching to the tab raised issues. Then I have a brief look at those issues, and you already see basically by the names of those issues if there is a possible or potential duplicate. And if so, you are able then to also link your scenario to an issue another tester has raised in the session. Because the use case here is, let's say Thomas has found an issue, right? A bug in the software. And you have found one scenario. You've documented a possible way to that bug with a scenario. But I found another way how to get there, and I just want to link that information to that issue. So that's also possible to do.
Okay, okay. Well, there are so many questions, but I guess we have to come to an end eventually, but I want to ask one or two more. So, is the add-on compatible with JIRA Service Desk and Data Center?
Yeah, sure. That's again an information you can see on that Atlassian marketplace. Here you go. Here you already see it. So every add-on basically has a couple of different flags. But here you can see it. Well, it's compatible with JIRA Data Center. So for those guys of you who don't know what JIRA Data Center is, just a clustered solution of JIRA. And it's also compatible to JIRA Service Desk. At its core, it's compatible to all flavors of JIRA, to be more precise, because JIRA can come in 3 different flavors to us. It's JIRA Core, it's the basis, it's JIRA Software, it's more for agile teams and development teams, and JIRA Service Desk is more for the business departments, right? Managing incidents and stuff like that. So yes, you can use that add-on for all those 3 flavors.
Oh, perfect, perfect. So I guess there's time for one last question, and I think that's an interesting one. You did show the agent before, and we talked about it, but the question was, can issues also be raised from the agent?
That's a good one, and it's a nice coincidence actually. So today I got a feature request from a customer already using our add-on, and he asked the same question. So, but I need to say no, but we're already working on it, and we think we are able to ship it in the next few weeks already, so that you can then create those issues in the agent and also link them to the chart, the issues, and the scenarios in the agent, and then just share all your results with a single action.
Well, that sounds perfect. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. All right, I guess we have to end Q&A here. I'm terribly sorry that we maybe missed some of the questions, but as you will see later on, there are some channels which you can use and for finding help. But some of you will already have been waiting for this moment. It's time to give away free stuff. So all attendees will be receiving a voucher code for our Specialist for Exploratory Testing course. And you will get this voucher in an email which will follow up this MOOC. And also next to the voucher code, the email also will contain a link to our knowledge base explaining how to redeem the voucher code. So you should be good to go with this email. Let me just quickly elaborate. What is a specialist for exploratory testing, or what are you going to learn there? So the Exploratory Testing Specialist course is your first step to become specialized in exploratory testing with Tricentis Tosca. So you will learn everything from the theoretical concept of exploratory testing up to the finer points of using Tricentis Tosca to perform it. You should definitely check it out. Anyway, it's free. All right, so let me also remind you of our upcoming MOOC, which will cover Tosca Analytics. You will explore all reporting levels of Tricentis Tosca there. The session will be on August 16th, 2017. And as always, we will have 2 sessions to cover the different time zones. Also, I would kindly ask you to complete the feedback at the end of this session. Yeah, and lastly, as I mentioned before, the only thing left for me is to show you and guide you if you need any more help or if you have any questions that are unanswered. Please do not hesitate to contact support by email or different channels that you find on our website. You can contact training directly if you have questions regarding any of our training courses at the emails that you see on your screen. We also have a knowledge base that not only is filled with articles from our experts from Tricentis, also in the forum and community portal on the support portal, a lot of users are helping each other out. So definitely check our support portal. Also, as Ingo already mentioned, there is an online manual, of course, not only for the exploratory testing for JIRA, of course, also for the Tricentis Tosca as well. And as I stated in the beginning, this session was recorded and will be available on our website, I guess later this week. And also, if you missed any of our previous MOOCs, please go there and check them out. They are available on our website, free for you to watch. Yeah, and maybe you'd also like to follow and find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Also, our YouTube channel has some maybe interesting videos for you. You should definitely check it out. So with that, let me thank Ingo again for taking his time to show us this very, very interesting and powerful add-on. And I guess that's it from my side.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining. Have a good one. See ya.
All right. Thank you all for attending. It was a real pleasure. Bye-bye.